Next, let's look at the question of people, that is, the people who translated the scriptures. Translated into Chinese by Tripitaka master Shikshananda of Udayana in the Tang dynasty, ca. AD 700. The person who translates the Buddhist scriptures is very important, and it also allows us to have confidence. The Buddhist scriptures were translated from Indian Sanskrit, and they were spoken by Shakyamuni Buddha when he was alive. Clearly, it's not a fabrication, it's not written by a clairvoyant or deity. That cannot be trusted. The matter of Fuluan, when I was very young, it seems that when I was in elementary school in Fujian, I saw that the custom of going to the trances to write letters was very popular there. I see their way of doing it. I can believe it. Because the people of Fuluan is on the sand table. That is also very particular. Fuluan pen, also known as fuchsia, is called jibi. They carve a dragon head, and when the dragon's tongue is propped down, it will be the pen holder. With a small dustpan, it is also very beautifully decorated. Most of the people in Fuluan were looking for some water carriers and firewood sellers on the street. At that time, before the anti-Japanese war, there was no tap water in the house to buy water, and there were people who carried water and sold it. These people could not read. There were also firewood sellers, having never been educated, and they don't know how to read. Find anyone out on this street, invite them in, so we can recognize the words written on the sand table next to him. His writing is well behaved, not scribbled at all. Each handwriting is written, roughly half an hour to an hour, can write dozens of words, people copy that word. I believe in that, because they themselves do not know how to read, especially they are not regular people, and they can be found at any time. I believe in it very much. But when I saw Fu Luan in Taiwan, I didn't believe it. Why? The person in Fuluan is a certain person. The person who holds the pen is a fixed person. And when the sand table is moved, no matter how we look at it, we can't see a word of it. And what he reads out of his mouth, he reads out 1,000 or 2,000 words in half an hour. So I don't believe it when I see that. That was probably fake, not real. The Buddhist scriptures were not written by these ghosts and gods, but were indeed translated from Indian Sanskrit. Therefore, the time of translation, the place where the scriptures were translated, and the translators are enough to prove its authenticity. The translator in this thread, the dynasty is the representative of time. This is the Tang dynasty. We also need to know the Dharma master who translates. In ancient times, it was not a single person who translated the scriptures. There was a translation field built by the country, which was the place for the translation of the scriptures. There are many people involved in the work of the translation field, and the deacons in it are also very finely assigned. The translator is the person in charge of the translation field. Just like the Scripture Translation Institute, he is the dean. And all the translators use his name. And he is responsible, like an officer in an institution. The work may be done by his subordinates. Many Buddhist masters and lay Buddhists participated in the work of translating the scriptures. After the scriptures were translated, his name was used and he was responsible. Just like a government organization, the chief executive of the government A mayor issued all these documents and announcements, all of which were drafted for him by his secretary, section staff, and section chief. He read the announcement, stamped it, signed his name, and he responsible. We must understand this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be translated by himself. This Dharma master is from the Khotan kingdom. Khotan is in our present Xinjiang. And it was a small country in the western regions during the Tang dynasty. This is to explain the native place of the master, where he is from, and what era he appeared in. Tang represents the era, and Khotan represents his native place. Tripitaka Samana represents his academic qualifications. Commonly known as the Tripitaka Dharma Master, he himself was humble, not daring to call himself a Dharma Master, but a Samana. Samana is a very humble way of calling. In today's words, it is a student who is studying. He dare not be called a teacher. Called a student, the status is equal to everyone. We are classmates. The word Tripitaka must be a must-write. If you do not understand the Tripitaka, you are not qualified to translate the scriptures. The Dharma master who translates the sutras must be able to master the Tripitaka to be qualified to translate the sutras. The Tripitaka, the Vinaya Pitaka, the Sutta Pitaka, and the Abhidhamma Pitaka, they are all clear. Sramana is Sanskrit, and all monks in ancient India were called Sramana. Not necessarily Buddhism. In other religions, those who practice as monks, such as Brahmanism, yoga, and numerology, as long as they practice as monks, they are all called Sramana, ascetics. After the name of Samana came to China, it became a special term for Buddhist monks. Its meaning is studying the precepts of concentration and wisdom, eliminating greed, hatred, and delusion. It is called a samana. This is the Dharma master's humble name. Shikshananda is also transliteration from Sanskrit, and translated into Chinese it means shi shui, which means learning happily. Translation means translation, so I won't say much about it. It was great master Shikshananda who translated this sutra. The master also has a book in China, the 80-roll edition of the Flower Adornment Sutra, that everyone reads and recites. The 80-volume Avatamsaka was also translated by him, so he has made great contributions to Chinese Buddhism. We are here reading the sutras. The great grace of this preacher, we must not forget. Without his translation, we would not be able to read this classic. Without the great virtues of the patriarchs passed down from generation to generation, we would not have the faith to see this sutra. So we treat the patriarchs of all generations with a grateful heart. To be grateful, you must repay the kindness, and to repay the kindness requires serious study. This is the real. Repay the 4 great kindnesses above. Being grateful is definitely, and relieve the suffering of those on the 3 paths below. So giving gratitude and saving suffering is one thing. Your act of repaying kindness, after being seen by sentient beings, can be inspired, enlightened, turned back, and reformed, and you will receive the real effect of saving sentient beings.